Welcome to Adding Value with Assar, the show where we dive into the stories, strategies, and market insights shaping the world of industrial and logistics real estate. In each episode, we sit down with industry leaders, investors, developers, and tenants to explore their journeys, unpack current market trends, and share takeaways that can help you better understand and navigate the business. You guys can work through this, right? Like you can
screw up all you want. You can screw up all you want. You're doing real well on this to start. So I see things being positive going in.
Well, it means good news for all of us.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If not, you can roll back the tape and yell.
Yeah, that's right.
I would say a common trait and something for young people or new people in the industry to think about for successful brokers is the ability to listen.
Value creation is not just about the numbers and the financial stuff. It's about creating value for our customer.
I remind myself, like, this is the business we got into. This is what we got into.
Yeah.
The prerequisite was that you just don't give up.
We having the Kelsey brothers on next time?
Maybe, who knows? Today's guest is someone who has literally helped shape millions of square feet across the Inland Empire. Eloy is an executive vice president at CBRE and has been a force in commercial real estate since 2000, consistently ranking among the top 3% of sales professionals nationwide. He's been involved in more than 69 million square feet of industrial development and over 8,000 acres of land, serving as a true full-cycle advisor guiding projects from raw land acquisition through development, lease-up, and sale. His work spans institutional and private landlords, developers and investors, always bringing strategic thinking and deep market knowledge to the table. Today, we're diving into his story, his mindset, and lessons he's learned building some of the Inland Empire's most impactful projects. Welcome to the show. So, Eloy, we were talking about this as you walked in because the conversation came up about some of the thoughts behind why I started this show. And I said, a piece of it is I felt like there needed to be, because I was searching for it myself, a medium of educated talk show about what's going on in industrial real estate in the Inland Empire. Another piece of it is, being a broker now, been in the business now for about 11 years. You've always wondered as you're kind of climbing the ranks, what is the story of some of the influential people in the business? And so in the back of my head, I had always said like one of the first people I'd love to invite would be Eloy.
Okay.
So thank you so much for coming. It means a lot to me. You're a good friend. You've been like a mentor to me in the business as well. So it means the world. So for those who, most folks know you, but for those who don't, can you tell us a little bit about Eloy and your background in the business?
Sure. I did want to mention the start of my life is I have both my parents are immigrants from Mexico and who afforded me the opportunity to have this opportunity.
I love that.
And so it's been an amazing journey. And 25 years ago, when I started this journey, never did I imagine that I'd be sitting in a room with these hot lights and thinking about what it was and how I was going to deliver this message. And for a lot of years, when you first start out, it's a lot of survival, right?
Yeah.
And I've been very grateful for this opportunity. And it's so funny, like no one in my family's in real estate, and it's not like something that you would see that I would. I wanted to go to school to be an attorney because I just figured that would be a profession that I could probably do well in. And one of my best friends was Ryan Earnhardt at Lee & Associates.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, no, it's amazing, and obviously Ryan's an amazing person, and
I know Ryan. I've done a couple of deals with Ryan.
He's probably one of the best people you'll ever know.
Absolutely.
But I was trying to figure out where I was going to go to school. And I remember we're at my buddy Brian's house, and I said, "Hey Ryan, if you can get me an internship at Lee & Associates, I'll go to UCR and we'll continue to hang out."
That's awesome.
And it was in passing, and like I said, I didn't know anything about the business. And 2 weeks later, he pulls me aside as we're hanging out with our buddies, and he's all, "Hey, I got you an interview for an internship at Lee & Associates." And I'm like, I don't even know that I have an outfit to interview in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my best, and I showed up to that interview, and I drafted up a resume. And I hope that resume never surfaces, because there was probably a lot of things that I claimed to be able to do that I knew in the back of my head that I'd be able to figure out, but I didn't know how to do them in that moment. And so I started 2001 at Lee & Associates in their marketing department. And I don't know, that office in Ontario at that time, it was the amount of talent that was there, the amount of push or drive, what they were able to create. It's where development kind of kicked off in the market. I mean, guys like Bill Heim, Michael Chavez, Joe McKay, Jeff Smith, Scott Oslin. It's like all these names, you're just like, these are the guys that kind of...
They're like the Mount Rushmore of the Inland Empire.
Without a doubt. I mean, and to circle back to Ryan, it was really Paul Earnhardt that not only provided the opportunity, but that I should be very grateful that I've had the opportunity to be in this business for 25 years. And I worked for this, at the time, she was a young lady, and she was the head of marketing, Susan Bloomfield, who's now like the chief marketing officer at Stream. And she's held a lot of titles through various companies in the marketing world and real estate marketing world. And so it just happened that I kind of fell into this great opportunity with these incredibly talented people. And that's kind of what like kicked it off, right? Like you spend 3 years in the marketing department, and then you go and I graduated college at UCR, and I had the opportunity. I'll never forget this. It's how does Ryan Earnhardt show back up in your life again? And I was on my way to the high desert to accept a job from Joe Brady at the Bradco company, and he's been the greatest marketer for the what we call the Inland Empire North for the high desert. And Ryan had talked to Bill Heim at that time and said, "Hey, we would love to talk to you about potentially coming on board." And never in my wildest dreams did I think that I'd have an opportunity to work with Bill Heim and Michael Chavez at that time. And I think they interviewed me one day at lunch, and they were like, "Yeah, you start on Monday." And that was probably 22 years ago. And so it's been an incredible run.
For sure.
And for a lot of that, it's been a marathon. But as you know, for the first 10 years of your career, it's a sprint, a never-ending sprint, and you're just trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you started in the business, and you had referenced a number of the senior brokers at Lee & Associates that kind of pioneered
very grateful
land development. Yeah. Was that solely your focus? You were focused on sourcing land for developers?
Yeah, I mean that is and was the business plan. But the one thing that I think that should come clear about land brokerage or that is sourcing land. There's a lot of guys out there that have signs that I'm sure you've driven by 1,000 times and that are there over the course of years. The one thing that I've learned, or that I was able to capture from what these guys were doing, is that they were selling they were selling business plans. Like, here's this site, this is what it looks like. Right? You go, at that time you went to a young Nam at HPA, and he would lay out a site, and you're like, can you make it a little bigger? Can the truck court be this? And he was always great to accommodate. And so the land business, or we term the land business, the goal is generally to sell a business plan. It's like, here's the land,
Here's a vision.
This is what we can develop on it. Here's the lease rate. Here's what we can sell it for. And then a lot of what we do is feel, right?
Mhm.
It's if it feels right, then you have the ability to call your client, and typically you know which client to call based on the opportunity that you're holding, right?
Mhm.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's just how many years you were at Lean Associates for? Probably 10 years.
No, it's amazing. I spent the better part of 16 years there.
16 years.
16 years at Lean Associates, 3.5 in the marketing department, and then 12 years working with Bill and the rest of that cast.
So you spent 16 years at Lean Associates.
Yes.
And the whole time you were doing mostly sourcing land or building business plans for your clients. At what point, and I'm just trying to understand, where you were in your career.
Sure.
And then you kind of transitioned over to CBRE. So where was kind of like, what was going on in Eloy's life and in his career right before that happened? And what was like the decision you made for you to kind of make that change?
What's interesting is we were doing all that assemblage work in South Montana, and we're putting big land tracts for multi-phase development. And I think we got done with our last one, and I think I've always had it in my mind that I wanted to see that if I could do it, or if it was just kind of happening because I was part of a bigger team. And I just think that I got to 37 and it was time to take a leap of faith. And at that time I had 3 young kids, and I just figured that if it was ever going to happen, it was going to happen now, or it was never going to happen.
It just felt right.
It just felt like the opportune time, and it wasn't easy to make that change, especially after you'd spent a full career at Lean Associates, and I'm grateful for that time. But I would tell you that my perception of what the experience was going to be at CBRE was probably short-sighted in the moment. It was like, hey, just a new shop, and hopefully it works out well. And then you get behind, that curtain, and 9 years goes by, and you're like, it's been an incredible run, right?
Right.
And it's kind of been exciting, And Joe Wardine, who's been my partner, he actually corrected me the other day. I was telling someone that we've been good friends and partners for 15 years, and he's all, it's 20, Eloy. And so Joe Wardine's been my partner in one form or another for the last 20 years. And at least for the last 9 at CBRE, and as crazy as that was, he also left Lean Associates, and he had 2 kids and a house and a mortgage to pay for, and we just kind of took the leap of faith and bet on ourselves. And that's what it really was about, right? It's like it was like, it's time to go out and bet on yourself.
Sure.
And I think in hindsight, I think we did something that a lot of people typically don't do as they're climbing the ranks. Most people kind of don't like to ruffle or create a stir, and
change course.
It was just the time, right? I was 37, and I just wanted to see if I could actually do it. If I was the one actually doing it. I always tell people it's a lot of times when you're on a big team, it's like doing radio magic. You don't actually have to do the magic trick. You just have to tell people you did. And it was kind of in the back of my mind. I wanted to see if we could take the challenge on, create our own path. And it's been 9 great years, not without challenges, but it's been an exceptional 9 years,
and a good run.
It's been a great run, and As far as development goes, we've really grown our presence on the development side in the market. We've had the great fortune of representing all of the big institutional groups and being a part of some of the best development projects in the market, right?
Sure.
And all through a lot of effort and a lot of trust from our clients. I mean, I often tell people that I'm like a walking sponsorship billboard, because you're nothing without your clients, right? It's you almost want to grab the microphone and be like, thank you, Rita, thank you, Clarion, thank you, Prologis. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Brookfield.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Good.
It's good.
It's I've only obviously seen what it's like to be at the little bit of the more regional firms. I've been at Voight for 11 years. And I've shared this many times on this show because for the most part, I've been very happy there. I mean, not for the most part, I have been very happy there. It's been a great mix. I love the kind of nimble entrepreneurial spirit. It's been a great mix of guys. But I'm also curious at the same time, you went from a shop that was somewhat similar to that, right? Lean Associates probably leans a little bit closer to like the Voights of the world. How has your business evolved? Because CBRE is a global firm, right? You guys mostly do institutional business. Not mostly, I'm sorry, that's not the right word. A lot of institutional business. How would you say your business has evolved moving from a company like Lean Associates to CBRE?
The one thing that I would tell you that you have at CBRE is the access to information. It's like the information you can provide your clients. Not only are you providing the information that's on the ground, but if the client wants depth, if you want a population, a workforce study, you want something specialized, we have the ability internally to provide that to a client. And our business, Shai, all of our business is we sell information, right? It's the client doesn't want to know what happened last week. They want to know what happened last week,
Mm-hmm.
right? They want to know when it's happening
and
why it's happening,
mm-hmm.
right? And you need to be on top of that. And the beauty of being at CBRE is that you touch enough of the people that have that information that you're constantly in the know of what's going on. And the national and the global reach is very real. Like, you go to some of these conferences and you'll have someone from some big national tenant just kind of providing information what their outlook's going to be, or some broker just reached out to their buddy at a big firm and they're telling you what they're looking like or what it's going to look like in the next 12 months for them, what the market feels like. We have this guy at this gentleman who I've known my entire life, who started at Cushman & Wakefield. And his name's James Breeze, and he's out of Phoenix, and he's like the head of research. And James Breeze is probably one of the most talented people I've ever met. And it's amazing to hear him talk about the market and the industry and the trends. And you'll say, hey, James, can you make the numbers look better? Because, at the end of the day, you want to sell. The easiest way to sell is positivity. And James will tell you at least when it can look like what you want it to look like. I was at a Clarion event, and Clarion's got this kid that's in their research department that I think would give James a run for his money. But you find these super talented, intelligent people at CB that provide the support that allow us to have the information that the clients are looking for. Mm-hmm. It puts you on the cutting edge, right? Mm-hmm. Development is no different, right? It's like for a lot of our clients, they're looking for the information. They want to know everything. They want to understand what the trends are across the country, what's happening locally, and then obviously regionally. It's important. And so you ask, like, what does CB do? Is they provide the information to allow you to be more successful and have a larger reach, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, so I'm assuming, this, and just by seeing the scale of your projects, right? So no longer are we really focusing on just kind of single asset developments. We're looking, you guys are, for the most part, what feels like you're building whole new cities, millions and millions of square feet. What does that world look like when you're moving into that level of land development brokerage?
The responsibilities are larger, right? It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of, if the client calls you and they want you in their city, you show up. But I would tell you, just because of the scale, it looks that way. Believe me, I'm still out there capturing the ones and twos. There's a lot of us. There's a lot to be said about that business, and so it's not lost on us. We're developing an additional 3 million square feet with Rita and Clarion in Ontario, but it's not lost on me that I have a 300 in Ontario with Prologis or that, it's all important, right?
For sure.
And especially as you've come into this world where it's like entitlements are so key, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's we have the good fortune of working on these large projects, but I think I would tell you that my job, or what I want to continue to do, is work on all development. I think it's integral to what we're going to do. And I think that the future is not only a lot of these large projects, but really these smaller developments are going to come big in play, especially in the infill markets, as
Right.
you start to see development kind of get challenged moving forward
Because of AB 98.
Because of AB 98 and just a lot of the litigious nature of our business. I would tell you, it's kind of interesting to see the work that the guys at Allen Matkins have done, the guys at Rattan and Tucker have done, just helping us figure out this entitlement landscape. So those big projects are great, but I don't know but the one thing you should notice too, though, is it's not like they're in Ontario or they're in Redlands. Like the world is getting pushed out.
Right.
And so now we have a development project with Brookfield in the city of Menifee, and I would have told you 5 years ago, there's no way. Right? We're doing
as in there wouldn't be a demand out there in Menifee. That when you say no way, right?
Prior to SB 330 and AB 98, we were sourcing land from you could source land from residential projects, right? If the city was willing to allow you to take a residential project and entitle it for industrial, that's how we sourced land, right?
So you were really targeting mostly residential zone land, large plots of land, and going through zone changes to industrial. But then after, you said SB 330?
Yeah.
After SB 330, that kind of came to a halt.
Yeah, the replacement factor became a challenge, and then everyone started worrying about like their RENA numbers, which is their residential allocation, and it really took a bite out of our business. And it's like, where are we going to get these projects? And so you look at Brookfield out in Menifee, and like I said, that project 6 years ago, when their residential team kind of came to me and was like, do you think this could be industrial? And you're like, sure, at some point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Never did I think that horizon would be sped up, right?
Right.
Same thing when you're starting to see like what the guys were able to do in Beaumont, what Shopoff did in Cherry Valley, what Cybert, he's going to do 5 million square feet in Beaumont. It's like this market cycle sped up the development in these markets that aren't core to the IE.
Right.
And in the same sense, Darla and the Covington guys, they kind of brought Hesperia and that high desert really into the market. Obviously, the SCLA project that Prologis took over kind of was always out there and it existed, but it was specialized and built to suit business. And they were able to capture some huge accounts, but it's not like people were following, right? Paris 20 years ago looks like what Beaumont looks like, what potentially Banning and the low desert look like, what the high desert looks like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at Hesperia, like that looks to me like what Moreno Valley looked like. You start seeing the development that's going that. The next 20 years are going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. Where the industrial is going to reach, and now you're seeing big companies go and develop regional distribution centers in Hesperia, and you're like,
mm-hmm.
And that's all you really need. It's like all you need is one guy to go into the market to prove that it logistically works, and that market now works.
It's a case study.
Listen, no one ever got fired by putting their business next to their competitor.
Right.
Because if it works for them, it should work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The distribution's the same. Yeah.
You have a broad base of institutional clients and private clients. And I've always wondered, when you have such a large book of business with a variety of clients, how do you manage and service them and keep them all happy at the same time?
Listen, it's so funny. I have a great team. Joe Werdine is amazing. Kathy Wozniak is incredible with her research. Angie Churchwell is amazing on the kind of keeping us together. And then we've added this talented kid, Gary Jenkins, to the team.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do you keep it all together? I would tell you that I'm always available.
Mm-hmm.
If my client calls me at 6 o'clock, it's not because they want to disturb my dinner. It's because something's happening and they need something in that moment. And I'm always willing to pick up the phone. They call me on the weekend and they need something. There's not a member on my team that's not open to putting in an hour over the weekend. I would tell you that there's a lot of times where we've called Kathy on the weekends and we're like, hey, Kathy, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And she's quick to jump to it. And so I would tell you that in order to have a large book of business, you always have to be available and accessible,
mm-hmm.
right? If the gentleman from Brookfield is calling you from New York at 5 o'clock in the morning, you pick up that phone call. Yeah, I think the best way to answer that is we're always available and there's nothing we can't do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one of your projects.
Sure.
Anyone you want to talk about, one of them I wanted to focus on in the West was your project with Rita and Clarion,
sure.
the Ontario Ranch Business Park. How did that deal all come together? It's, to my understanding, that land, that assemblage of land near the Chino Airport has been 20 years in the making. Is that fair?
It's kind of complicated. I would tell you that that Rita and Clarion have been big shepherds of that area along with Prologis, but Jason Krotz at Rita was out there spending entitlement money when it was probably uncomfortable to spend entitlement money, and they had their first project that they kicked off and leased to some great tenants and kind of kicked off that entire market. But it's probably been 10 years in the making.
Mm-hmm.
I would tell you that when we were down there proposing opportunities to people early on, because there was no infrastructure down there and nowhere to get it from, people were like, well, it's not happening anytime soon, right? And there was a lot of guys that made efforts to buy land down there and all for naught, because no one could ever get comfortable with it. And so to me, Jason Krotz, Rita, and Clarion, they pioneered that South Ontario market with, obviously Prologis, who had the park next to them, and then obviously they added additional phases to that development. But you get to the ORBP phase that we're at today, where it's 7 buildings. We leased one of them to a large tenant. We're in the throes of leasing the remaining 2 buildings, and you look at that and you're like, what's behind that? And we're going to develop 2 more 1 million square foot buildings at ORBP, and then at their second phase, at their third phase, SOLC, develop a 1 million square foot building. We've already been able to capture a refrigerated user in that project that took about, developed a 600,000 square foot building with a 20 acre yard. And there's probably, you take that all, there's probably 3 million more square feet to develop there. And beyond that, there's not a lot left in that market. It's pretty picked over. There's probably a few more projects that'll get developed, and then that south market will be complete. Yeah.
In those, you said in those early stages, because there wasn't any infrastructure. So was there kind of a collaboration with all of the developers that were looking to pull infrastructure there, where they contributed in money or resources to get that project off the ground?
I would tell you that there was probably a lot of negotiating that went on behind the scenes that as a broker, you're just not privy to. I'm sure that the Rita guys, Jason and the Rita guys, and Clarion, we're having a lot of conversations with not only Prologis, but also with the city of Ontario to help with some of that. Because it's not like it wasn't readily available, it just didn't exist. And so you were having to bring that infrastructure not from the next city block, but you were bringing it from pretty far away. And so you look at that today and you're like, oh, of course, it makes all the sense in the world. But like I said, when Jason was out there early, and he was out there early, most guys probably looked at it like a pipe dream, right? It's something that they thought it could happen. They just didn't think that it was going to happen anytime soon. Yeah. But it's a great project, and
Absolutely.
And they've been able to fill it with some of the best tenants in the market. And there's probably not a tenant there in that park that's not well known. That is not a household name.
And a lot of state-of-the-art buildings.
It's all state of the art.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, what's interesting is the state of the art facilities are very important to the direct user. I think that the third party groups will figure out what we term now as A- or B+ product. But I think that for the direct user, for the name brand guys, they want the efficiency of those state of the art buildings. They want those buildings to be north of 36 foot clear. And if you're at 1 million square feet, you want to be 40 to 42 foot clear. You want the ESFR, the upgraded ESFR. You want all the bells and whistles. And I think what's important today, which hasn't really been the case for the majority of my career, is you develop a large building. Historically, it's always been that if you had a dock door, that you then had a trailer position right across from that dock door for additional storage. And in today's world, a lot of these users that are looking for these state-of-the-art buildings, they're looking for additional trailer storage.
More than one.
Absolutely. It's like if you develop a 1 million square foot building, I would tell you that it's safe to say that tenant is going to look to see if you have an additional, call it 5 to 10 acres for trailer storage. And it's just the way that retail is today, right? It's like it isn't that I'm going to go to the store, the department store, and get my widget from the store. It's I want it accessible from the warehouse to my house. I hope that it can be delivered overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I think of, brokerage, obviously I have an idea of what it looks like for myself, but then I wonder for Eloy, what would you say is, how has the brokerage business changed for you, say from 10 years ago to today? What does it look like?
That's a great question. I don't know that I prepared for that question. But
well, there's no wrong answer. That's a good thing.
No, and I get that. And what I would tell you is I never would have imagined how fast this world moves. We'll go back to my high school days. Like the internet was fresh. In 1997, when I was getting out of school, the internet was fresh, and information was you still got it the old way through your television and through a newspaper, and maybe you went and looked up something on the internet, but it wasn't part of your life. And then the internet became a thing, but you still had those additional avenues, and now it's how fast can you get information, and how fast can we move that information and put it to work for your benefit. So I would tell you that the biggest change in brokerage has been how fast the information moves and how fast you need to have that information, especially as you're making decisions or you're advising. Brokerages, you can always glamorize what we do, and I feel like a lot of people do. Just ask them. Mm-hmm. But as a industrial real estate broker or industrial real estate broker, we're advisors. Mm-hmm. And so it's how fast can you have the information that the client needs? And that's what I think has changed over the last 10 years is the access and the need for the information to find out what's happening on Wall Street before it hits Main Street. Mm-hmm. I think that's critical. I mentioned to you in our conversation that we were having in the hallway earlier. It was kind of interesting to hear that one of the largest tenants in the market a few years ago decided that they were no longer going to take space in the market. Right. And that was critical for a guy who sells development projects. It was a signal to us, right? And so that's the greatest change over the last 10 years is the access and how fast you need to access the information, and how important it is to have relationships with the right brokers in the market, right? It's really we'll trade in information to allow each of us to be successful. Mm-hmm. And I would tell you that that's been the biggest change. I mean, do you think, you've been in it 11 years. What do you think has changed in the last 11 years that has really been significant to your career, that has allowed you to make additional moves?
Well, it's a good question. I actually was reframing the question as far as how things have changed for you. And for me, for example, I'd say like the way in your career, when I first started out, it was only about me, right? It was only about trying to figure out how to survive. So my business, my day-to-day really looked more just solely on business development. Whatever I generated and, whatever service I was able to provide to a client and lead to a transaction. I'd say about 11 years later, my day-to-day is very different, right? It's still obviously business development is a key piece of what we do, and sourcing opportunities for either investors or developers, or even representing and advising tenants or users who want to buy. That never stops. But I'd say moving in this second phase of my career, my day-to-day has changed where I feel like I'm working more on the business, right? Working with a team, training younger guys, delegating some of those responsibilities, and thinking visionary as to how the next 5 and 10 years are going to look like. And so that's how my business has changed. And I was kind of trying to get an insight to say, okay, you were already successful on a smaller team
Sure.
or doing land brokerage at Lee, but now you've moved into this new world at CBRE where the footprint has grown. You're managing millions and millions of square feet of product. You're advising institutional clients, a very diverse group of clients. So I was trying to get insight on like, what does it look like on a day-to-day for Eloy now relative to 10 years ago?
Sure. We're just looking, I think we're no different than everyone else. We're just looking for the next project.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking for where the next pocket of opportunity is. You're trying to be the tip of the spear for the market to push it into a new area. Where are we going to find additional development? And we're looking at the surrounding markets. And I would tell you that you have to be conscious of what is actually available and then what the sentiment of the city and the city council is towards industrial development. And so I would tell you that the one thing that we're doing is we're scouting out new potential development areas. We're advising our clients where to look. And our clients are telling us what it is that they would like to see.
They have an appetite for it.
Absolutely. Nothing ever changes on our business. I mean, when the client calls and says, hey, we're looking for new development and we'd be interested in these pockets. Sometimes you have to have a conversation and say, hey, this city's really turned off the faucet on industrial, and maybe we should look elsewhere. And here's where other people are looking, and here are the opportunities that are available. And so I would tell you that we're scouting new areas for development. We're talking to our clients, figuring out what it is that they're looking for. I had a group, yesterday in the office, and they were telling us that that their goal was to pursue some of the distress assets that are out in the market, and I would tell you that, and as I was having the conversation with them, I was like, I don't know that a lot of that exists. I mean,
Right.
there are sellers in our market. I don't know that there are distressed sellers in our market. And so we're having a lot of those conversations. And so in today's world, we're out looking for additional sites for development. And we're also having a lot of conversations asking people what it is that they're looking for.
Sure.
And by the way, like it's almost like a grocery shopping list, right? Like, when you call your buddy who's the acquisition guy, you have to figure out what it is that they have capital for.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of strategy that goes behind that. I would tell you, obviously, that's a great point to fall on is early in my career, you went and found the opportunity, and then you made the phone calls to figure out who was going to buy it. And in today's world, we make the phone calls to figure out what it is that they're looking for and then go find the opportunity. Yeah. There's a lot of strategy to that. Right. But in the same sense, it's brokerage, right? It's
For sure.
It's no one's ever going to turn down an opportunity. I mean, I was very happy to hear with what you guys were able to accomplish with Bridge in Fontana. I mean, that's a transformative deal. I mean, very successful for everyone. And yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. One of the things I've always noticed and appreciated about you is that you're a connoisseur of positivity. You've, anytime I've talked to you about, the few times I've talked to you about kind of where I'm at in my career and where I'm looking to go, you've always been a strong supporter and incredibly positive. For younger guys who are in the business who kind of are getting started, and then all they really know is they see the sign, they see the millions of square feet, and they're wondering, can I get there, right? How do I get there? What are some nuggets, as we call them, that you'd be happy to share with them?
What's interesting is it's like, how do you end up where you end up? You kind of just I always used to say that you pick up the ball, and some days you move it forward, and some days you just pick up the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to be available for opportunity to find you. And you talk about positivity, it's nothing great's ever going to be accomplished from a negative attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you're in a negative mindset, it's hard for opportunity to find you. You're not attracting anything.
Right.
Right. And so you do have to stay positive, and you do have to get up every day. And every day is going to present its own challenges, right? And so what I would tell a lot of young people is stay in the fight. I just hired these 2 young kids, Ben and Patrick. And I take them to meetings with me, and the advice that I give them every time that we walk into a meeting, I'm all, you're here to take notes and listen. Because when you're very young in the business, it's like, hey, you can have an opinion as to the football game over the weekend. But when we are in institutional and advising these clients as to what to do, they can't provide anything, right?
They have to just absorb it.
You just have to sit there. And for a lot of young people, the first 3 to 5 years, depending on what it is that you're chasing, it can be fruitful. It can be not fruitful. But there is always light at the end of that tunnel. I forget the book, but there's this book where this guy was mining, and he had bought a gold mine. And he mined, and he got, it's going to kill me. It's going to drive me nuts. And I read it earlier in my career, and I read that book, and I read several books, but this story always sticks with me. And after a while, he got tired of digging through this mine, trying to find this gold vein, and so he sold it off, and the group that bought it found the gold vein 3 feet from where he was, or something to that effect.
Sure.
And that's what I would tell you, that brokerage is for a lot of young people, is you just have to keep going until you hit your stride, especially as you're having the conversation, Shy. Like when you're having a conversation with a lot of these guys, it's so easy to trip up on your words.
Mm-hmm.
And you've now taken everything you've built up to, and you've lost it in a moment, right? And so I think that it's critical that for a lot of young people that you sit in these meetings and you just listen. It doesn't feel like the most profound advice. It's like maybe you should be telling people that they should go and charge as hard as possible. And you can, there's space for that, right? Like when you're out looking for opportunities, charge hard there. But when you're sitting in an institutional meeting and you're early in your career, the best thing you could do for yourself is to sit there and learn, and at least learn the way the conversation's being had.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so critical.
Mm-hmm.
So many times I've heard young people speak up in meetings where you're just like, you just started a sentence and you don't know where that's going to land. And that's the scariest thing. Shy, I'll always share this with everyone, is when you open your mouth in a meeting, not only should you know what you're going to say, but how you're going to deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that preparation is a key, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I got to give you one. I was in a meeting with, it's probably the first meeting I ever got invited to, with Bill Heim, Michael Chavez, and the Fulmers, Fulmer Construction. They had developed a 5-building project with the RCI guys in Riverside, and I had gathered a bunch of information. And I remember like a question came up, and I was certain that I had the answer to that question. Certain. And so I piped up and said something, and I couldn't tell you what that was. But the most profound thing that I got from that, after I was corrected and one of the senior partners took over the conversation, is as we're walking out, Bill Heim looks at me and says, Eloy, the 6 Ps. And you're like, what does that mean? And it's proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And it has stuck with me 20 plus years. And so for young people, I think preparation is important.
Absolutely.
I think there's a time when you need to be aggressive and be out front when you're looking for opportunities. But I think that the most valuable thing that young people are ever going to need to know is that their time is coming and that they just need to sit in these meetings and be happy to be there and take as many notes as possible. I used to, I mean, now you have iPads and you could record everything. But back then we had those yellow legal pads. I used to write everything down. And then at the end of the evening, I'd read it to myself once. And then in the morning, I'd read it again. And I just clocked the memory. And a lot of times you're like, I don't know where that's going to come back and help me. But you were just kind of like, you're just kind of filling all this information into your, into this like
memory bank.
Yes. Perfect. Into your memory bank. And eventually, as the years pass, like you have a concept of everything that's happening. And I think it's so critical. It's so critical when you're young to just listen.
And be patient. And let this process play out.
You know, as a father, the one thing like I love my kids and I have 5 of them, which is, you know,
beautiful family.
Thank you so much. It's always so funny when you tell people that you have 5 kids. They're like, "How many?" I'm like 5, and then you know. But I'm very blessed in that way. But the one thing that I tell my kids constantly is, you can't listen to dad if you're speaking. And I think that that's a critical thing for a lot of young people to have in their repertoire, right? I think it's the most valuable thing they'll ever have. It's an overnight success in industrial real estate is, you know, call it 10 to 15 years. Yeah. So you're at the precipice of your launch.
To learn how to listen. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
No, I agree. I think the reason I appreciate your kind of positivity in every conversation is, you know, being in the business now for 11 years, and you know this, but anyway, in the first 5 years, it's so challenging. Now you might have some level of success, but there's a lot of times a lot of failure you deal with, right? And so if you can create a mindset, and that comes with however it is, for me, for example, the mindset, and I wish I'd done this sooner, is I try to live as healthy of a lifestyle as I can, because when I'm not, that comes with a level of negativity and in my psychological behavior, which then trickles down into my workflow, right? But I say this to say it's important to, however it is for every person, to maintain that positivity so that you can deal with the adversity and the challenges that come with the business. Because to your point, there is light at the end of the tunnel. You just don't want to end up either delaying getting there or failing before you get there. So I appreciate you coming on. Go ahead if you got.
I just wanted to say one more thing. The most valuable lesson that you'll ever have is sometimes when you lose, it's a great learning opportunity.
For sure.
It is the greatest learning opportunity. There has never been a time when I've lost at something that I didn't take that to fuel the success.
For sure.
I can vividly tell you chasing deals and losing them and who I lost them to and how I racked my brain on what I could have done better.
Absolutely.
And so losing isn't negative. It's an opportunity to learn.
It's a part of the learning curve.
1,000%.
And it never ends. Because as you climb, you just lose bigger things. That's what's happening.
You do, yes, absolutely, yeah. And the stakes are larger, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate your friendship as well. Great having you.
Dude, I'm so grateful for you. Thank
Likewise.
you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I hope that I was able to provide you with.
You're the man. You added a lot of value.
Oh, I'm going to take your word for it. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Eloy. Thank you for listening to Adding Value with Shai Assar. We'll continue bringing on guests with stories and insights that matter in the world of industrial real estate. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend or colleague. And if you're a landlord, tenant, or investor exploring opportunities in the Inland Empire, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you navigate the market.